The restaurant buzzed softly around us, glasses clinking, laughter bouncing between tables, the warm smell of garlic and wine wrapping everything in comfort. I'd chosen that place because it always felt safe, predictable, the kind of place where nothing bad could ever happen. I laughed at Daniel's joke, my hand resting close to James's, and for a moment, I let myself believe we were fine. Then Maya lifted her glass, smiling too brightly, and shattered the illusion. "I'm glad you two worked things out," she said, laughing. "When I saw James at the Silver Bar last week with that woman, I thought you guys had split." Her words sliced through the air, and suddenly, everything stopped. Forks hovered midair. Sophie's eyes darted to her plate. I felt my pulse crawl up my throat, heavy and cold. My lips formed a polite smile, but my heart was hammering so loud I could barely hear myself think. "Sorry, what did you just say?" I asked, pretending curiosity, not panic. Maya blinked, suddenly uneasy. "Oh, was I not supposed to mention that? I assumed you knew. He was with a brunette. Really pretty. They looked close." The room spun, but I kept my face still. James's color drained, as if someone had pulled the plug on him. And in that instant, I knew. The peace I'd felt a minute ago had been nothing but a lie wearing perfume. James stammered, his voice low and shaky. "Maya, that must have been someone else. I wasn't even there." But even before she answered, I could tell he was lying. Maya frowned, confused. "I literally waved at you. You waved back." The words echoed, stretching between us like a rope about to snap. I smiled politely, pretending not to notice how everyone else avoided looking at me. Inside, though, something twisted, something sharp and cold that I couldn't name yet. I watched him try to recover, his throat tight, his hand gripping the stem of his glass too hard. He looked at me with that pleading, rehearsed calm that men use when they've run out of truth. "You must be mistaken," he said again, softer now. But Maya didn't back down. She shifted awkwardly in her seat, murmuring, "I'm sorry. I really thought you two were fine." And just like that, the laughter was gone. The whole table sat in that awful kind of silence where no one dares to breathe. I lifted my glass, forcing my voice to sound gentle. "Don't worry, Maya. You didn't say anything wrong." Everyone exhaled, relieved to move past it, but I wasn't done. I took a sip of wine, and behind the taste of oak and bitterness, there was fire. James avoided my eyes, pretending to listen to Daniel's joke. I didn't make a scene. I just watched him. And in that quiet, I made myself a promise. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The rest of dinner passed like a play I didn't audition for. I smiled when I had to, laughed when someone said something funny, even lifted my glass for the toast I no longer cared about. Every sound felt distant, the clinking of cutlery, the murmur of voices, the scrape of chairs. I remember staring at the candle's flame and thinking how calm fire looks before it destroys. That's exactly how I felt. Quiet, but burning. James tried to act normal, slipping his hand under the table to touch mine. I let him, for appearance's sake. His thumb traced lazy circles over my skin, but it only made my stomach turn. Across from us, Maya avoided my gaze completely. Poor Maya. She didn't know she'd just ripped open a truth I'd been too blind to see. I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't. She wasn't the one who'd smiled at me while lying through his teeth. When we finally stood to leave, James wrapped his arm around my waist as if nothing had happened. I leaned into it, smiling for our friends, the perfect wife with perfect poise. But as we walked out into the cool night air, I looked at our reflection in the restaurant window, two people holding hands, pretending not to be broken. And right there, beneath the glow of the streetlight, I knew. Tonight was just the beginning. The car ride home was a graveyard of silence. Streetlights slid over the windshield in slow motion, each one catching the tension sitting between us. James kept his hands tight on the wheel, eyes fixed on the road, pretending not to notice the way I was staring out the window. I could still hear Maya's voice in my head, looping like a broken record. "You waved back." Funny how 4 words can feel like a punch. When we got home, he tried to speak first. "You can't seriously believe Maya," he said, forcing a laugh that never reached his eyes. You know how she loves gossip. I turned to him slowly, my voice low, cold. She waved at you, James. She doesn't make up stories. You do. His mouth opened, then closed again. The air between us thickened, heavy with excuses he hadn't invented yet. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. He finally said it, the line every guilty man rehearses. It was just someone from work, okay? A client. It was business. I remember smiling at that. At 10 p.m.? In a bar? My tone was calm, almost too calm. That's what scared him most. He started pacing, throwing words at the walls like maybe one of them would stick. I just watched, collecting every blink, every stutter, every lie. Deep down, I already knew the truth. But I wanted proof, because proof, unlike love, doesn't lie. He kept talking, trying to smooth the cracks with words that no longer had meaning. You're overreacting, Nora. You always jump to conclusions. Always. That word stung more than I expected. He said it like a weapon, sharp and familiar. I didn't answer. I just walked past him, the soft creak of the floorboards filling the silence he couldn't control. I could feel his eyes following me, desperate for forgiveness I hadn't offered yet, and never would again. I went to the bedroom and started undressing, my movements slow, deliberate. My hands were steady, but my chest felt tight, like my ribs were trying to keep my heart from falling apart. James stood in the doorway, still defending himself. You know I'd never cheat on you. I looked at him then, really looked at him. The man I'd shared a life with, a home with, a future with. And for the first time, I couldn't find him behind his own face. It was all performance. When he finally went quiet, I turned off the light and slipped into bed. He followed a few minutes later, sighing heavily, pretending sleep came easy to him. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the faint glow of the moon across the room. My body lay still, but my mind was awake, sharper than ever. I knew he'd lied. I just didn't know how many times, and that uncertainty was my new fuel. When his breathing finally evened out beside me, I knew he was asleep. That was my cue. I turned carefully, slow enough not to wake him, and reached for his phone on the nightstand. The screen glowed faintly, lighting his face in the dark, a face that looked peaceful, almost innocent. I pressed his thumb against the sensor, and just like that, the door to his truth unlocked. My hands didn't shake. My heart did. The first few messages were harmless, work updates, reminders. But then came the name, Melissa, work project. My stomach turned. The texts were full of winks and late-night emojis. Can't wait to see you again. You looked amazing tonight. And then a photo, the silver bar, the same one from Maya's story, her brunette hair resting against his shoulder, his smile so wide it hurt to look at. Every word I read stripped away another piece of the life I thought we had. I didn't cry. I didn't even curse. I just stared at the proof until it stopped feeling real. Then, methodically, I took screenshots, each lie, each secret, and sent them to my own email. Evidence, insurance, power. I placed his phone back exactly where it was, turned on my side, and whispered to the darkness, "So this is what honesty looks like to you." His breathing never changed, but mine did, because in that moment, something inside me shifted, from hurt to resolve. The next morning, I woke up before him. The sunlight spilled through the curtains, soft and golden, as if the world had no idea what it was hiding. James rolled over, still asleep, his hand reaching for me like habit. I watched him for a moment, the same man who once swore I was his peace. Now I could barely look at him without feeling a storm rise in my chest. When he finally opened his eyes, I smiled. It wasn't forgiveness, it was strategy. "Hey," I said lightly, brushing a stray hair from my face. "How about dinner tomorrow? Just the two of us?" His expression softened with relief. He thought my smile meant surrender. "I'd love that," he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. I let him. I even laughed when he made a joke about making reservations. But as he walked away, whistling down the hall, I could feel something new stirring in me, a quiet hunger for clarity, for control. After he left for work, I made coffee and sat at the table with my phone. The screenshots were still there, proof glowing on the screen. I stared at them as if they were an invitation to a new life, a life without blind trust, without pretending. And that's when I decided I wouldn't confront him yet, not until I knew everything. If he wanted to play pretend, I'd be the better actress. I'd smile, listen, and take notes. The truth was finally mine to orchestrate. By noon, I had already decided who to talk to. Sophie. She worked in marketing too. Same field, same circles, same gossip. She'd know. I texted her something casual. "Lunch? I need a friendly ear." She replied within minutes, her usual warmth cutting through the cold edge of my day. When we met at the cafe, I smiled like nothing was wrong. The smell of roasted coffee beans and fresh bread felt almost cruelly comforting. I ordered a latte and practiced pretending. We talked about everything but what mattered. Her new client, a movie she'd seen, the rain that wouldn't stop that week. Then I leaned forward, my voice soft. "Hey, Sophie, do you know a woman named Melissa? She works with James." The moment I said her name, something flickered across Sophie's face. It was quick, but I caught it. Guilt, maybe. Or pity. "Oh," she said carefully, stirring her coffee. "Melissa Turner? Yeah. They've been spending a lot of time together." Everyone in the office assumed she was, well, you know. I nodded slowly, my chest tightening but my smile unwavering. "I do now," I said. My voice didn't shake, but my fingers curled around the cup until the ceramic felt hot against my skin. Sophie reached for my hand, but I pulled back gently. "Thank you," I whispered. On the drive home, I rolled down the window and let the wind hit my face. Every mile, every breath, was a rehearsal for what would come next. I wasn't just uncovering the truth. I was preparing to expose it. When I got home, the house felt different. Too clean, too quiet. The kind of quiet that amplifies every lie still echoing in the walls. I walked through each room slowly, noticing the small details I used to overlook. His jacket tossed carelessly over a chair, 2 wine glasses in the sink, one with lipstick that wasn't mine. My stomach clenched, but I smiled. Proof had stopped hurting. It had started guiding me. Every clue was a breadcrumb, leading me toward my own liberation. I opened my laptop and began organizing the evidence. Messages, photos, dates, all neatly filed. Not out of spite, but precision. I wanted everything to be clear when the time came. Betrayal loses its power when you turn it into data. And as I stared at those screenshots, I realized something simple yet freeing. He had built this illusion, but I would decide how it ended. Slowly. Publicly. Perfectly. That night, when James came home, I greeted him with a kiss on the cheek and dinner on the stove. He looked relieved, maybe even grateful. "You're quiet tonight," he said softly. "Just tired," I answered, smiling. He had no idea that beneath that calm surface, the woman sitting across from him wasn't broken anymore. She was planning. He thought forgiveness was settling in. But what was really blooming was vengeance. By the weekend, everything was set. Same restaurant, same friends, same smiles. Only this time, the script was mine. James thought it was my way of patching things up, a sweet gesture from a forgiving wife. I let him believe that. I wore the same perfume he used to say reminded him of our honeymoon. I wanted him comfortable, unguarded. Revenge, I'd learned, tastes best when the other person still thinks it's dessert. The restaurant glowed softly, just like before. Maya waved when we arrived, cheerful and unsuspecting. Sophie sat beside her, quiet, avoiding my eyes. I caught that, tucked it away. James put his hand on my back as we walked in, whispering, "I'm proud of you for moving on." I smiled, almost pitying him. Moving on? Oh, I was moving, just not where he thought I was headed. Dinner flowed easily at first. Jokes, wine, and all that comfortable noise people make when they want to believe everything's fine. I laughed when they laughed, my pulse steady, my plan clear. And as the waiter refilled our glasses, I felt that familiar spark, the same calm before the fire. I glanced at my phone once, just to be sure the photos were ready. One tap away, one truth away. Halfway through dinner, I raised my glass, smiling just enough to catch everyone's attention. Before we toast, I began, my voice calm, almost kind. I just want to clear something up from last week. I turned to Maya, whose cheeks instantly flushed pink. Remember that woman you saw with James? The table stilled. Forks paused mid-air. Laughter dissolved mid-sentence. Maya stammered, "Oh God, I feel so bad about that." "Don't," I said gently, cutting her off. "You were right." The silence was electric. James's hand froze on his napkin, his jaw tightening as if he could chew through the tension. I could feel everyone's eyes ping-ponging between us, unsure where to look. Slowly, deliberately, I reached for my phone, unlocked it, and set it on the table. The glow lit our faces as the screen came alive, photos of James and Melissa at the silver bar, smiling, touching, lying. For a moment, no one breathed. "This is the silver bar," I said softly, my tone polite, almost conversational. "The night you said you were at the gym. Funny thing, I was about to text you about dinner plans, but it seems you had other company." My voice didn't tremble. Neither did my hand. The truth sat between us like an open flame, and for once I wanted him to feel the burn. James leaned toward me, his voice low and furious. "What the hell are you doing?" His whisper was sharp enough to cut glass, but I didn't flinch. I just smiled, cold, composed, untouchable. "Just clearing up confusion," I murmured. "You hate misunderstandings, don't you?" His face turned crimson, the kind of red that comes from humiliation, not anger. Sophie looked down. Maya's lips parted, frozen in shock. Even Daniel, who never stayed quiet, had nothing to say. The room spun around us. Music, laughter, the clinking of glasses from other tables. But our table was an island of silence. He reached for my arm, but I moved away before he could touch me. "You think this is funny?" he hissed. "No," I said softly. "I think it's fair." I picked up my glass and raised it slightly. To truth, even when it comes late. My voice carried just enough for everyone nearby to hear. That was the point. Then I stood, adjusting my coat as if we'd just finished a lovely meal. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even look back at him. I walked out of that restaurant with my head high, the night air wrapping around me like applause. Behind me, I heard chairs scrape and murmurs rise. But I didn't care. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something close to peace. Not the fragile kind, but the kind that comes after fire. When James came home later that night, the house felt heavier, like the walls themselves had heard what happened. He slammed the door behind him, the sound echoing through the quiet. "You ruined me!" he shouted. "Everyone saw!" His words bounced off the furniture, the photos, the life we'd built together. I stood in the kitchen, calm, arms crossed, watching him unravel. "No," I said softly. "You ruined yourself. I just stopped cleaning up your mess." He stared at me, chest heaving, eyes wild. "Please, I can explain." The words sounded pathetic, hollow, worn out. "You already did," I interrupted. "To Melissa, over drinks, over lies." His face twisted, somewhere between guilt and rage. He grabbed a chair, then let it go, realizing how small he looked from where I stood. It wasn't anger I felt, it was release. The kind of relief that doesn't show, but fills every breath with quiet strength. He kept talking, trying to rebuild something that no longer existed. Promises, apologies, excuses, all recycled from the same script. I didn't argue. I just walked to the side table, opened the drawer, and pulled out the envelope I'd prepared days ago. Divorce papers, his clothes, folded neatly. My silence was the loudest thing in the room. Consider this my last dinner with you, I said, handing him the envelope. From now on, you can toast yourself. He didn't open the envelope right away. He just stared at it, as if the weight of the paper might crush him. You're really doing this? He whispered. His voice cracked on the last word. I almost pitied him, but pity is what had kept me small for too long. Yes, I said. I'm really doing this. He looked around the room like a man searching for an exit that didn't exist. Every photo, every memory, every lie hung in the air between us like ghosts refusing to leave. He reached for me then, desperate. We can fix this, Nora. We can go to therapy. We can... I stepped back before he could finish. We? I repeated, my voice steady. There hasn't been a we for a long time, James. There's just you, and the woman who finally stopped pretending. His eyes softened, the fight draining out of him. Maybe he saw it in me, the calm finality that doesn't beg, doesn't scream, doesn't come back. I walked past him toward the door, the floor creaking under my steps. Behind me, I heard him whisper, I still love you. I paused for a second, hand on the doorknob, staring at the quiet hallway ahead. Then you should have acted like it, I said. My voice didn't shake, but my heart did something strange. It didn't break this time. It healed, just enough to keep walking. The night air outside felt sharp and clean, almost like freedom had a temperature. I stood outside for a moment, breathing in the night air. It smelled of rain and endings. Behind me, the house glowed softly through the windows. Our house, now just a place filled with echoes. I could almost hear our laughter buried somewhere in the walls, mixed with the lies we told each other to survive. For years, I thought love meant endurance. Tonight, I realized love, real love, never requires you to shrink to fit someone else's comfort. I walked to the car, heels clicking against the pavement, each step steadier than the last. My hands didn't tremble when I started the engine. I didn't even cry. I just drove, letting the city lights blur past, one truth at a time. Somewhere between the stoplights and the silence, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I didn't see a broken woman anymore. I saw someone reborn, tired, yes, but untouched by the weight she'd finally set down. As I turned onto the highway, I thought about his last words. I still love you. Maybe he did. But love without honesty is just decoration. It looks beautiful from far away, but it rots underneath. I tightened my grip on the wheel, whispering to myself, you taught me that silence is survival. But truth is liberation. For the first time in years, the road ahead looked wide open, and it was all mine. 6 months later, my laughter filled the same kind of restaurant, but this time, it was mine. No tension, no pretending, no watching my words. Just me, Maya, and a few close friends who had seen me crawl through the fire and come out glowing. The candles flickered against the glasses, and the wine tasted like something new. Peace. Maya leaned in, eyes soft. You look happy, she said. I smiled, a real one this time. I am. Turns out losing him was the easiest weight I've ever dropped. The table erupted in laughter, warm and genuine, the kind that doesn't hide anything. I looked around at these women, each carrying her own story, her own scars, and I realized how much lighter life feels when you stop protecting the person who betrayed you. The music played low, the clinking of silverware mingling with the rhythm of second chances. For once, I wasn't performing. I was present. Whole. Then my phone buzzed. His name lit up the screen. James. I miss you. Can we talk? I felt a small smile tug at the corner of my mouth. Without hesitation, I typed back, I'm at dinner, with people who actually deserve me. I hit send, set the phone face down, and lifted my glass. To freedom, I said softly, the kind that doesn't need permission. And as I took that sip, I knew. He used to toast to lies. Now I raise my glass to truth.